Welcome to the OMG Tarot podcast. I'm Lindsay, aka OMG Tarot. As I mentioned in the most recent episode, today's episode is going to be about the devil. The devil is number 15 in the major arcana. The reason why I chose to follow up the lovers with the devil is because if you take a look at them, there's a lot of compositional similarities between these cards. They both have a large central figure who's making some hand gestures that we're going to get into a little bit later in this episode, with two smaller figures standing down at the bottom right in front of our big central figure. Once again, our two figures are a nude man and a nude woman, and the man has fire behind him, while the woman has some fruit behind her. So we can kind of see already where there's some crossover between these two cards. These cards are also, in a way, you could call them tarot siblings. We're going to do a little bit of numerology here, so some adding and subtracting of digits. Also, if you want to follow along with this discussion, grab your tarot deck and pull out the devil. You might want to pull out the lovers as well, and just as a heads up, I'm once again working with the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, so if you're working with a separate deck, your mileage might vary. So here's how you can reduce a tarot card's number to find its tarot sibling. The devil is number 15, so take those two digits, 1 plus 5, and you get 6. Then find the card that corresponds with the sum. In this case, it's the lovers. Now, this isn't the only example of this relationship between cards in the major arcana. Consider, and we're not going to spend a whole ton of time on this because I really don't want to derail off our devil discussion, but the star. Add 1 plus 7 and you get 8, and then take a look over at the card number 8, strength. Think about the similarities between strength and the star, or for perhaps a more obvious one, death. Add 1 plus 3, you get 4, and 4 is the Emperor. Now, both the Emperor and Death have really strong Mars energy, and that's as far as I'm going to go with that today, because, again, we're here to talk about the devil. You want to talk about the Emperor and Death? Well, you're going to have to tune in when those episodes drop. Bringing it back to our relationship between the devil and the lovers, we actually see a little tiny reference to the devil in the lovers card. You know what I'm talking about? Look at the tree behind the woman. There's that green snake that's coiled up around the tree's trunk. And think back to what the lovers are an allusion to. They're an allusion to the story of Genesis, where the devil disguises himself as a serpent in order to tempt Eve into eating the fruit. And I think that's actually a really important clue to what the devil card means in tarot. Let's take a look at what the devil symbolizes. Largely, it's about earthly desires and material want. The devil card is associated with the zodiac sign Capricorn, and if you've got any Capricorns in your life, now, I realize a lot of this zodiac stuff is a bit stereotypy, but your Capricorn friend probably drives a nice car, and they probably have an appreciation for nice things. I mean, don't we all, right? But Capricorn takes it to another level. They'll work hard, and I'm talking like work 60, 80 hours a week hard, so they can afford that BMW. Capricorn is ambition. Capricorn energy is, I'm not afraid to work my tail off in order to get what I want. The ends justify the means, and if that means driving myself crazy right now for delayed gratification, that's fine. So now what's that got to do with the devil? Well, because the devil card is about what overtakes you when ambition and a want for material items really just overtake your sense of, why am I doing this? It's chasing material wants and earthly desires over any kind of spiritual enlightenment or anything that your soul really needs. Contrast that with the figure in the lovers, who's giving the people divine insight and enabling them to really understand each other and understand the world better. Now, I'm really not trying to cast the devil as a bad card, because there's no such thing as a bad card. Every tarot card has multiple applications, and in fact, think of them more as concepts. So, this is a concept that exists, and it's a concept that you'll encounter when doing tarot card readings. Note the chains that are around both the figures' necks. That's really key to understanding the devil. These people are bound to their earthly desire. They're so obsessed with what they've decided to pursue that now they can't escape from it. Now they can't really extricate themselves from what they've set out to do that might have started off with noble intentions, but now they're kind of committed, and those pursuits have taken over them. Think about the idea of the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Now let's take a look at the figures themselves. Instead of standing in front of trees, they've both got a tail. And the man's got fire on the end of his tail, and the woman's got grapes. So once again, we've got that symbol of fire, that passion and motivation and virility that we can read here. He's taken it way too far, that what might have started out as a healthy level of motivation is now just blind ambition and drive that's really got a hold on him. Similarly, the woman's fruit can symbolize groundedness and stability, that while she might have had a healthy relationship with those concepts over in the Lovers, she's now maybe overly cautious and really overly attached to the material things in her life that make her feel secure, but how much are they really keeping her secure? What is she missing out on by staying attached to them this way? And that brings us to another important image in this card, the inverted pentagram that's right up there sitting between the devil's horns. So let's think about the elements again here. We know this card is associated with Capricorn, an earth sign, and we know that earth energy is slow moving and grounded and pragmatic and, above all, secure and stable in tarot. This card cautions you to really look closely at what you're assuming is stabilizing you and which promises are you really kind of hitching your wagon to here and assuming will solve your problems for you and keep you secure. The inverted pentagram, which means it's got the 2 points facing upward and the 3 points facing downward, symbolizes prioritizing the material realm over the spiritual one, versus if you flip that pentagram upside down and you have your one top point pointing upward and the 2 bottom spikes pointing downward. If you think of a traditional pentagram, that's what that would be. That's the way things, quote unquote, should be. That's the spiritual realm pointing upward with the material realm underneath it supporting it. But then you flip it upside down and that's an inversion of the natural order of things, that it's like, no, I'm going to put this Gucci handbag over genuine spiritual growth. And that actually brings us to the next set of symbols in this card, the devil's hands and what he's holding and how he's positioning them. So we see the devil's left hand is holding a big flaming torch, and we see his right hand held up in what looks like the Vulcan salute. Well, it's not the Vulcan salute. This is actually symbolic of the devil making false promises by inviting you to pursue your passion and pursue what feels good. So let's break it down. Think back to that discussion we had in the Justice episode where we talked about the left hand being your receiving hand and the right hand being the projective hand. So right here in the left, this fire could be interpreted as, I'm receiving your desires. I hear what you want. I know what it is you really want to go after and what motivates you and what drives you. And then over in the right hand, I'm making this promise to you. In fact, I'm even going to make it look like I'm giving you what you want. And so that lures the people in, and they get more comfortable with everything that the devil's giving them. They get more comfortable with pursuing their lust and really just kind of saying yes to all those base desires. And we can actually see that in the devil horns that are sprouting out of their heads, that the more comfortable they get with this devil's presence in their life, the more they become like him. Think about the kind of relationship that's being depicted here versus the kind of relationship that's being depicted in the Lovers. Who holds the power in this relationship? It's also important to note, and if you've been reading tarot cards for a while or hanging out in tarot-y spaces, you're probably aware of this symbol. The chains around the people's necks are pretty loose. They can remove those chains if they want to. And that's a really important piece of information to keep in mind when you're reading this card. They're bound to the devil, sure, but they don't necessarily have to be. Similarly to in the Lovers, where we have that idea of choice and who are you choosing to partner with, these people chose to be here, and they can leave if they want to, but they have to recognize that this isn't good for them, and they have to decide to leave. There are a lot more symbols that you can unearth in this card, such as how our devil figure here is a reference to the figure Baphomet, and what Baphomet means esoterically. But I don't want to go too far off the rails here. I want to keep us focused on the Rider-Waite-Smith depiction of the devil. I highly encourage you to go down that rabbit hole yourself. Even if you just head over to the Wikipedia page for Baphomet, there's a lot of good information there that if this is an area that's interesting to you, you can spend quite a bit of time over on that page just clicking all the links and seeing where they take you. And learning some really interesting tarot-adjacent information. But keeping it to the tarot card, just know that the devil is an unhealthy relationship, and it's one where you're prioritizing material wants over spiritual needs. It's giving in to carnal desires and really letting that lust take over. It can also mean too much of a good thing. It can refer to, because I don't want to pretend that ambition isn't a good thing. Obviously it is. The devil asks you to really look to, okay, how am I directing this ambition? How am I really putting all that effort in, and am I directing it to somewhere that's positive and productive, or just as a way to do what feels good in the moment, or have the most toys at the end of the day? This message becomes clearer when you consider where the devil fits into the story of the major arcana. At number 15, it follows up right after temperance. Temperance is harmony. Temperance is having control over your emotions, as we see from her maintaining the water in between the two cups in her hands. It's also all the elements coming together. We see 1 foot in the water, 1 foot on the ground, and we see the big bright sky. She's deliberate harmony. She's making the deliberate decision to take care of yourself and to make things harmonious around yourself. There's always such thing as too much of a good thing. Think of, say, somebody who makes the New Year's resolution to start going to the gym because they want to be healthier. They go, and then they're going 4 times a week, and then they're going 5 times a week, and then they're going 7 times a week, and then they can't even enjoy a slice of pizza on Friday with their friends because it doesn't fit their macros. They become so obsessed with this health journey that it becomes detrimental to other areas of their life, like their mental health and their social health. And that's really devil energy there. It started off with good intentions, but now it's taken over you, and now you can't look at a cupcake without feeling guilty. So that's the progression of temperance over to the devil. But then where do we go after the devil? Well, after our healthy, good-intentioned thing we've set out to do is become an obsession, we end up at the tower. It's not sustainable. You had something that somewhere along the line became more about feeding your desires, and it fell down, it imploded, and we need a reset. We need to start back at square one. Call back to last time. That's how we end up with the star. So, when you're doing a tarot card reading and the devil shows up, what does it mean? Let's try out a couple scenarios. Let's say, for example, you are interviewing for a new job. I feel like we talk about that a lot, but it's something people do a lot. So we shuffle, 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 and here comes the devil. Beware of a golden handcuff situation. If you're not familiar with the concept of golden handcuffs, it's where things are really great on paper. Fully remote, stock options, 250 G's a year, company car, and it's a Bentley. Sounds amazing, right? Well, you're getting harassed and belittled and demeaned and treated like trash all day by your colleagues. And it's objectively a terrible experience. But you also feel like you can't leave because where else are you going to get that compensation package? So you're stuck with this dilemma. Do I stay and put up with all of that in exchange for the great salary and all the other perks? Or do I leave and dramatically reduce my quality of life in order to get some peace? Only you can decide that for yourself, but the devil might show up to just clue you in of this is what you're in for. So just be aware of that and make wise choices. Let's try another example. Let's read about you're considering adopting a pet. So you decide, all right, tarot cards, tell me, what do I need to know? Should I adopt a pet? Is this the right call for me? We shuffle, 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 and let's make it a little more interesting. Oh, we've pulled the 9 of Cups. The 9 of Cups says, put your desires out there. It says express what you're feeling and just be open and honest with what you're feeling and what you're thinking and where your heart is. Well, how can that be negative? Well, context. Context is key in tarot. And then we also pulled the devil. Okay, why do you really want to adopt this pet? I'm not totally sure that your intentions are, and you might not even be aware of this yourself. Maybe it's a bit of a subconscious desire. With the 9 of Cups and the devil together here, I'm kind of thinking to myself, are you maybe considering trying to adopt a pet as a way to resolve some issues that you maybe don't want to face head on? Could you possibly be trying to adopt a pet as some kind of status symbol or some kind of attempt to maybe fit in socially or maybe make some kind of statement about yourself? Essentially what I'm seeing this is it feels like you're not coming into this adoption scenario hoping to genuinely adopt a lifelong companion, but rather because it has some kind of status. Maybe you need to admit this to yourself, that one of your motivations is so you can be seen with a pet. Alternatively, let's say the devil shows up in your pet adoption reading and you do that soul searching and you determine that, no, I'm adopting a pet for the right reasons. I am a responsible owner and I really am ready and prepared to adopt a living, breathing, thinking creature into my life. Perhaps the devil is saying that a pet will tie you down in some way, that maybe you travel a lot for work and you hadn't considered the effect that that would have on your pet, or that perhaps you need to be able to move around freely and that bringing an animal into your life might limit you in some kind of way. In any case, the devil's showing up to say that bringing an animal into your life right now really isn't in your best interest, or the animal's best interest. And being a responsible pet owner means acknowledging that, even when it's not necessarily what you want. Perhaps now is as good a time as any to drop another biographical fact about me. I have 2 pets. I have a white Shiba Inu Jindo mix named Sunny, and I have a calico cat named Mimi. So that about sums it up for our discussion of the devil today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something. If you enjoyed it, please leave me a review on Spotify. And if you want to keep up with me, give me a follow on Instagram at its_OMG_tarot. You can also visit my website, omgtarot.com, where you can read my blog. You can also book a tarot card reading with me over on the website. And if you've got any questions, comments, or thoughts about this episode or others, I'd love to hear them. So leave a comment on Spotify or DM me on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok, but I don't really use it a whole lot, so if you want to reach me quick, do it on Instagram. Alrighty, that's about it for today. Have a good one, and we'll talk soon.